Hashtag the power of deep breathing for mental health. There is something you have been doing every single moment of your life, something so automatic, so constant, that you almost never think about it. And yet, this one involuntary act holds more power over your mental health than almost any medication, any therapy session, or any wellness trend on the market today. It is the simple, ancient, profoundly underestimated act of breathing. What if I told you that the way you breathe right now is either slowly damaging your mental state or quietly healing it? Tonight, we are going to find out exactly which one it is for you. Breathing is not a new subject. Humans have understood its connection to the mind for thousands of years. Ancient yogic traditions in India developed entire systems of breathwork, called pranayama, dating back over 3,000 years. The word pranayama itself translates roughly to the extension of life force. Chinese medicine built concepts of qi, or vital energy, around the movement of breath through the body. Tibetan monks used breathing techniques as the foundation of their most advanced meditation practices. For millennia, human beings across vastly different cultures arrived at the same quiet conclusion: the breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. Modern science is only now catching up to what these traditions understood intuitively. Over the past 2 decades, neuroscience and clinical psychology have produced an extraordinary body of research confirming that deliberate, controlled breathing directly and measurably changes brain chemistry, nervous system activity, and emotional regulation. This is not soft science or spiritual speculation. These are concrete, replicable findings published in journals like the Journal of Neurophysiology, Frontiers in Psychology, and Psychophysiology. So what is actually happening inside your body when you take a slow, deliberate deep breath? To understand the power of deep breathing, you first need to understand your nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system operates in 2 primary modes. The first is the sympathetic nervous system, commonly called the fight or flight response. When this system activates, your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, cortisol and adrenaline flood your bloodstream, and your brain shifts into a hypervigilant state designed to help you escape danger. This response evolved to save your life from predators. The second mode is the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest state. When this system is dominant, your heart rate slows, your muscles relax, digestion resumes, and your brain enters a state of calm, clear processing. The problem facing most people in the modern world is that the sympathetic system is chronically overactivated. Work deadlines, social anxiety, financial stress, digital overstimulation, and sleep deprivation keep millions of people locked in a perpetual low-grade fight or flight state. And when your nervous system is chronically stressed, your mental health deteriorates in predictable and measurable ways. Anxiety increases. Depression deepens. Concentration fractures. Sleep becomes impossible. Emotional regulation collapses. The research on chronic stress and mental health is overwhelming, with studies showing that sustained cortisol elevation is directly linked to hippocampal shrinkage, meaning stress literally reduces the size of the brain region responsible for memory and emotional regulation. This is where deep breathing becomes one of the most powerful interventions available to the human nervous system. When you breathe slowly and deeply, you stimulate the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, which runs from your brainstem all the way down through your chest and abdomen. The vagus nerve is essentially the superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. Stimulating it sends a direct signal to your brain that you are safe, that the threat has passed, and that it is time to shift out of survival mode. This is not metaphorical. It is a measurable neurological event. That happens within seconds of beginning slow, diaphragmatic breathing. One of the most well-studied breathing techniques in clinical psychology is the 4-7-8 breathing method, developed and popularized by Dr. Andrew Weil. The technique involves inhaling for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 7 seconds, and exhaling slowly for 8 seconds. The extended exhale is critical here. Research consistently shows that the exhale phase of breathing is more strongly associated with parasympathetic activation than the inhale. When you extend your exhale beyond your inhale, you are effectively pressing the brake pedal of your nervous system. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found that participants who practiced this type of extended exhale breathing for just 4 weeks showed significant reductions in self-reported anxiety and measurable decreases in salivary cortisol levels. Another technique gaining tremendous clinical traction is box breathing, also known as foursquare breathing. Used extensively by United States Navy SEALs and other elite military and emergency response personnel, box breathing involves 4 equal phases: Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold again for 4 seconds. The symmetry of this pattern is deeply regulating for the nervous system. A 2020 study from Trinity College Dublin found that controlled breathing practices significantly improved sustained attention and reduced mind wandering, both of which are impaired by anxiety and depression. The researchers linked these cognitive improvements directly to the regulation of noradrenaline, a neurotransmitter that, at optimal levels, sharpens focus and improves mood but, in excess, contributes to anxiety and hyperarousal. Perhaps the most extensively researched breathwork protocol for mental health is what Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman has called the physiological sigh. This technique involves taking a full deep inhale through the nose, and then before exhaling, adding a second short sniff on top of the first. You then release everything in a long, slow exhale through the mouth. The double inhale fully inflates the lungs and pops open any collapsed alveoli, the tiny air sacs responsible for gas exchange. This maximizes the offloading of carbon dioxide, which is the primary trigger of the panic and anxiety response. In a 2023 study published in Cell Reports Medicine, Huberman and colleagues found that practicing just 5 minutes of physiological sighing per day produced greater improvements in mood, stress reduction, and physiological measures of calm than mindfulness meditation or other breathing patterns tested in the study. 5 minutes. Every single day. The connection between breathing and sleep deserves its own careful examination. Insomnia and anxiety form a devastating feedback loop that affects roughly 40% of adults at some point in their lives. When you cannot sleep, anxiety increases. When anxiety increases, sleep becomes even more elusive. Breathing is one of the few tools that can interrupt this loop at the physiological level rather than simply managing symptoms. Slow, deep breathing before sleep activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowers core body temperature, reduces heart rate variability in a beneficial direction, and promotes the release of melatonin. Clinical studies on patients with insomnia have repeatedly shown that structured pre-sleep breathing protocols reduce sleep onset time and increase total sleep duration without any pharmacological intervention. What is fascinating from a neuroscience perspective is that the act of focusing on your breath also engages a specific neural circuit. The prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for rational thought, planning, and emotional regulation, becomes more active when you direct conscious attention to breathing. Simultaneously, the amygdala, the brain's alarm center and the primary driver of anxiety and fear responses, becomes less reactive. This shift in brain activity is visible on fMRI scans. Researchers at Harvard Medical School studying long-term meditators found structural differences in the prefrontal cortex and amygdala consistent with years of breath-focused practice. The brain literally reshapes itself in response to regular breathwork, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. It is important to address a common misconception about deep breathing. Many people try it once or twice during a moment of acute panic and find that it feels difficult, even uncomfortable. This is normal and expected. When you are in a state of high sympathetic activation, the nervous system resists the shift toward calm. It takes a few cycles of deliberate breathing to begin moving the needle. Think of it like trying to turn a large ship. You do not change direction instantly. But within 2 to 3 minutes of consistent, slow breathing, even someone in the midst of a panic attack will begin to experience measurable physiological change. The breath is always available, always effective, and always free. Building a consistent breathwork practice does not require expensive equipment, a gym membership, or even a particularly long time commitment.